We returned from executive session. No action, binding action was taken. So, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item M, presentation of the appraiser's annual report on real property value trends in Sedgwick County.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mark Clark, Sedgwick County Appraiser.
Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon.
You're officially addressing us with your new role.
Yes, I am. I'm very proud to do so.
All right. Congratulations again.
Thank you. The report that I'm about ready to give is the 2020 Annual Real Estate Mass Appraisal Report, and this will also give some indications of what property owners can expect to see on their 2020 value notices. First of all, let's review a few things about the appraiser's office duties. Physically inspect each property within Sedgwick County every 6 years. We discover, list, and value all property, especially if it had significant changes, and update appraisals each year to assure that properties are valued at fair market value. January 1 is the appraisal date. Please remember that our office is extremely statute-driven. There are key dates, 3 that I want you to keep in mind for this presentation. January 1 is the appraisal date. March 1 is the date that real property valuation notices will be mailed. And June 1st is the date that the appraiser certifies the values to the county clerk. As far as parcel growth, you can see from this graph that from 2019 to 2020, we had 1,835 new parcels, and that was due to new plats in Sedgwick County. Sales activity for all classes of real property increased 2.1% from 2018 to 2019. Residential property represents about 57% of the total assessed value in Sedgwick County. New dwellings. New dwelling construction. This particular graph pertains to residential that has or is comprised of 4 units or less, and that includes single-family homes. That increased 7.7% from 2018 to 2019, but you're looking at relatively low numbers there, and so it's only an increase of 84 new dwellings. However, it's important to note that from 2005 to 2009, on average, annually, for each of those years, we had, on average, 1,800. We haven't seen those types of numbers since pre-Great Recession.
Mark, can I ask, when you say new dwelling, these are residential homes?
Yes.
So this is not an apartment dwellings or
no apartments are included in this.
Duplexes?
Yes, you will have single family, you will have duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes.
Okay, thank you.
Residential inventory. The next 2 slides, we visited the website for the Realtors of South Central Kansas. And this is a very interesting slide here. If you look at the 2 parallel red lines, 4 and 6, and the numbers off to the left are number of months. This is the monthly supply. That is indicative of a healthy market if you are between those 2 red lines. However, for 2019, if you look at the bottom, that is where we are at. And for 2019, December 2019, we were at 1.5 months of supply. That is a record. That is very low.
If you're a seller.
If you look at the residential inventory days on the market, the numbers on the left, once again, are the days, and once again, the bottom line is the 2019 line. In January, we were around 30 days on the market, and towards the end of December, we were approaching 20. So, to think of this, if you look at the July number that for 2019, if you look at that line and how it bottoms out, homes that were selling between 100,000 and 175,000 were on the market for less than 2 weeks. It is definitely a seller's market. Median sales price. From 2018 to 2019, the median sales price increased $9,900 or 6.2%. That's a shocking figure right there, but it does indicate a very strong imbalance between supply and demand in the residential market. Also, the Realtors of South Central Kansas indicated that in December of 19, sellers were getting 98% of their list price, and that for January 2020, they were getting 99% of their list price. Commercial property represents 31% of the total assessed value in Sedgwick County. And from 2018 to 2019, commercial sales increased 1.2%. Commercial building activity, when you look at building permits, they had a decrease of 9.9%. And I looked at that and I asked people out in the market, and they're not concerned. There's plenty of projects in the pipeline, and there are varying degrees of completion. So it's not really, they don't look at this as a real issue. Also, remember that construction firms are having a very difficult time finding enough skilled labor to complete projects. And also, it takes longer to complete a project than it used to. So, that being the case, that is a direct correlation with the shortage of skilled labor. Also, when it comes to the appraiser's office, we did take the 737 MAX and the supply chain issues into consideration during the valuation process and setting final values. In fact, we curbed some of the increases for some of the sectors of the commercial market which would have otherwise had increases. (2019) preliminary appraisal sales ratio study. Residential 89.6, commercial 90.9. Please remember that these were the numbers prior to us doing the 2020 valuation. This was a gauge which helped us determine that values were low and they needed to be raised. In fact, the state visited us multiple times over the last several months and encouraged us to raise values. They thought that it was important to do so.
And Mark, on the state level, is there they want you to be within 10%? Or
It is the ratio. The median ratio should be between 90 and 110.
okay.
And also, many jurisdictions target a ratio of 100. We don't do that at Sedgwick County. Not since the days of Jerry Franz. I mean, when Jerry Franz came here, he hired me, and one of the first things he did is he changed the methodology for that. The ratio that we go with is 95%. So we try to build a conservative valuation methodology into our valuation. That measure assures a conservative approach to valuation. Also, when you look at these ratios, you can tell that the residential and the commercial values needed to be adjusted upward. Agricultural. 438,257 acres, or 68% of the land in Sedgwick County, is devoted to agricultural use. Agricultural property represents less than 1% of the total assessed value in Sedgwick County. The Sedgwick County Appraiser's Office is not responsible for setting agricultural land values. The state does that. They have a contract with K-State, and then they do the work, provide it to PVD. PVD sends it to us, and we upload it into the CAMA system. CAMA being the Computer-Assisted Mass Appraisal System. What we do is we handle the classification and then the delineation of ag on a particular parcel. Now, here's what everybody wants to see. 2020 valuation summary. Residential parcels. 16% will receive a no change in value. 81% will receive an increase in value, the typical change being 6%. 3% will receive a decrease in value, with a typical change being 5%. Commercial parcels, 28% will receive a no change in value, 53% will receive an increase in value with a typical change of 7%. 19% will receive a decrease in value. Typical decrease will be 5%. Agricultural parcels, 30% will receive a no change in value. 30% will receive an increase in value. The typical change, 29%. 40% will receive a decrease in value, and the typical change was 2. Now, when it comes to increases in ag land, please remember that the impact tended to be on irrigated land and tamed land, and that is pasture land, basically. Tamed grass is pasture land.
Mark, why did we have a 29% increase in ag?
Well, I am asking further questions on that from the state. However, I can tell you that that would be due to increased irrigation and productivity on those lands, and also from the tame grass. And I'm asking about the pasture land because even I want to understand that more.
But what I don't understand, it's on a rolling cycle.
It is.
And typically your land is valued based on the value of the crops that you get off of those.
True.
And right now the crops are at an all-time low on the value. So I'm surprised you're telling me that 29% of our ag land went up when the farmers are barely making ends meet right now because they can't sell their crops for a living wage, basically.
I understand.
So now on top of that, they're getting hit with a 29% of the increase of value. We need better delineation on that. Please go back to the state and give us some feedback.
I will. I can tell you that on those parcels that receive 29%, I'm being told that represents approximately an $80 increase for a particular parcel. And you know, I'm sort of looking at that and I'm saying, so I want some more clarification myself. I will contact the state and staff and I will get better answers for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Mailing of value notices. The Sedgwick County Appraiser's Office will only mail value notices to property owners that experience a change in appraised value or classification in 2019. Approximately 174,000 real property value notices will be mailed for 2020, which is about 78% of all properties in Sedgwick County. Last year, it was 181,000, which was about 81% of the properties. Assessing your value notice if your value or classification did not change. In other words, if you didn't get a value notice mailed to you, or say you misplaced or lost your notice, property owners who don't receive a notice review or can view their appraisal information for their property beginning March 1 online at www.sedgwickcounty.org, which will include instructions on how to file an appeal. If you don't get a value notice, you can go on there, print your value notice. You have the same rights to appeal as somebody who received a value notice in the mail. The appeal process. Property owners if property owners don't think their values reflected market value or would like an explanation of how the value was determined, they just simply flip over that value notice, fill it out, return it to our office within 30 days of the date indicated on the front of the notice. And that's a key point. It has to be 30 days within the date. Also, appeal meetings will begin March 17th, 2020. Uniform and equal. Please remember that the county appraiser by law is required to value property in a uniform and equal manner and should not be considered an adversary. Increases or decreases in property values do not change the amount of tax dollars needed for local services. Now, anytime, whether it's appeal season or not, property owners are always welcome in our office. Up on 5th floor at the Ronald Reagan Building, that's 271 West 3rd Street, and that'll be Suite 501. You are more than welcome to walk in there, ask to view your property characteristics, talk to an appraiser. You want the sales in your neighborhood, you can have those. Just say, I'm contemplating an appeal. The only thing you have to do is say you're thinking about an appeal. You can have the sales in your neighborhood. Or you can call 316-660-9000. That's the call center. If there's a question they can't answer, they'll send it to us. We'll be glad to help. Also, make sure that you go to www.sedgwickcounty.org. And there you can get appeal process information, real property values, sales, real property sales, and you can look at your property record card. Always remember that when you come to an appeal, one of the things you want to ask is, how was my property valued? Every appraiser should be able to answer that question. And another thing you want to ask for, you want to review your property characteristics. Sometimes we may make a mistake. We're not perfect, and we want to help. Other than that, I want to thank the commissioners for allowing me to present this afternoon, and I would like to thank my hardworking, very talented staff for completing the 2020 Mass Appraisal. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much, and thanks for being patient, waiting to do this today.
That's fine.
I know we all were walking in going, we're going to see this, but actually it's good information.
Thank you.
And good for the public, and probably I was going to message to Kate that this would easily be part of our newsletters out to inform others, especially the appeal process and the links. So anyway.
Any way I can help, please let me know.
Yeah. So how's it going so far?
Good.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Move to receive and file.
Second. A motion to receive and file the 2020 Annual Real Estate Appraisal Report. No other questions? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell? Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell? Commissioner Cruz? Chairman Meitzner.
Aye. Well, next item, please.
Item O, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting on February 13th, 2020.
Good afternoon.
Joe, could we move you to the end of the meeting? No, I'm kidding.
I was hoping you were kidding. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director. The meeting of the Board of Bids and Contracts of February 13th. We have 6 items we're presenting to you this afternoon. Item number 1 is 2 each of the 2020 Chevrolet Express 3500, which is a 15-passenger full-size van for fleet management and sheriff's office. This recommendation is to accept the low bid from Don Hatton Chevrolet, and that's in the amount of $59,400. And we're also establishing contract pricing for labor and parts, and that will be for a period of 3 years. Item number 2 each of the light duty extended cab trucks for fleet management and MABCD. This recommendation is to accept the low bid from Parks Motors in the amount of $46,346. Item number 3 is on-call ballot printing for election office. This recommendation is to accept the overall low bid from Mainline Printing Incorporated at the rates listed for 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew. Item number 4 is an information technology security products for the Division of Information and Technology. And this recommendation is to utilize the State of Texas Department of Information Resources contract, which is DIR TSO 4133. And that's with Optiv Security Incorporated. And that amount is $119,177.63. Item number 5, Kronos Workforce Maintenance and Support, Division of Information and Technology. This recommendation is to accept the quote from Kronos Incorporated, and this is in the amount of $100,697.32. And our final item is the electronic medical record software, and this is for Sedgwick County Developmental Disability Organization. This recommendation is to accept the proposal from Metasked LLC for an estimated 3-year cost of $598,276. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, and I recommend approval of the items.
Thank you, Joe. Hey, can I ask, number 5, does that, the way I'm reading it, is there only, does that mean they're the only people that submitted a proposal?
Kronos is the established vendor, and this is a renewal for that established software. And so Kronos would be the only one to supply that maintenance agreement.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? It doesn't appear there are any. A motion?
Move to approve the Board of Bids and Contracts.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. I see no other comments. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell? Aye. Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz? Aye. Chairman Meitzner?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Next item.
Consent agenda.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. Tom Schultz with County Manager's Office. Recommend approval of consent items P through X.
Okay, you've all had a chance to look at it. Consent items P through X. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any comments? Being none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz? Aye. Chairman Meitzner?
Aye. Next item, please.
Legislative issues.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Papoon, County Councilor. I'll give a brief legislative summary. We have gotten bill numbers for two of our priority pieces of legislation. The nuisance abatement bill is now Senate Bill 423, and that was introduced in Chair McGinn's Ways and Means Committee in the Senate. Our County Charter Commission legislation is now Senate Bill 406. It was also introduced in Ways and Means. I've been told by our lobbyists that we anticipate that we'll get a hearing on these bills following turnaround next week. I'm hoping that we can get commissioner involvement on testifying for these bills, and I'll keep you guys informed as to when the hearings will be. Hopefully we'll have some notice. We're already working on testimony to help with this. Senate Bill 294, a bill we've been looking very closely with. I know we've been working with Lindsay Poso on the ramifications of that bill. That bill would freeze the tax rate for municipalities, cities, and counties, and it passed out of committee with some changes, and we're still looking at this bill and seeing what the impact will be on Sedgwick County at this time. Don't know when it's going to be heard on the floor of the Senate. I know Commissioner Howell's testified on a couple of driver's license suspension bills. I don't know if he wants to address either of those. And then lastly, last Friday we submitted testimony for the chairman in favor of the transportation bills that are moving through the legislature. There's Senate Bill 375, which is in the Senate, obviously, and House Bill 2588, identical bills, which are the forward transportation bill, forward in all caps, which hopefully will help us with a couple of the county transportation projects, mostly North Junction and the Northwest Bypass. We talked to Jason Watkins yesterday about this legislation. He indicated there was some language in there which would allow toll roads for perhaps the Northwest Bypass, and he thinks the hearing went very well on those bills. So hopefully that'll help us get some projects going. I think one aspect of the bill too is allowing a local state matching program, which might help get some of our projects up to the top of the priority. So that's what I have for now. If you guys have any questions, be glad to try to answer.
Commissioner Howell?
Just a comment. This is the week where the Senate and the House are going to be on the floor all day. They've got, I'm going to say probably 30 bills under the line potentially. I don't know if the Senate's going to work as hard as the House. I think the House is pushing out a lot of bills. The Senate may be, because of the Medicaid expansion, may not be doing as much this week. But nevertheless, this is the week where they would normally finish the bills in their chambers and hand them over to the other body starting next week. And I would say 294, which I think, again, has a lot of momentum. They did amend that in the committee to clarify this repeals the tax lid. So it's a very important detail for local government. If people who are, clamoring for a repeal of the tax lid, they ought to be aware of that change that the committee made. I think that was obvious by the base language, but they clarified that with an amendment. And then House Bill 2547, which is there's actually 3 bills on suspended driver's licenses. One in the House, I think, is stagnant, and one in the Senate, 270. I think it's 275. Had a hearing, and I personally testified on that, and I did written testimony on the other one, House Bill 2547. It did pass out of committee. It will be on GO this week, and I expect it will be handed over to the Senate. So I think that bill is moving forward. So with that, that's some comments.
And I think that last bill, if I'm not mistaken, Commissioner, is the one that District Attorney Mark Bennett and his task force have been working on as well.
That's correct. So there's some additional support for that. There is a couple of opponents on that bill, but mostly the DAs and the Sheriff's Association have come on board to support that bill.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you. Really quickly, our top 4 issues that we put forward are all dealt with behavioral health, and I haven't heard anything at all on the top 4 issues that we've got.
We will talk to Mr. Watkins and get it. I've been reading his reports, and I know we're going to start instituting conference calls with him again shortly. The last time I talked to Mr. Watkins about our behavioral health issues, he had indicated that the subcommittees, the Ways and Means and Appropriations subcommittees, were just getting involved with their hearings, but I haven't had an update on that since then. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no other comments? Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
Other?
Does anybody have anything other?
Just, I would just make one comment. I was going to say it during Mark's presentation on the appraiser issues. I continue to think that we ought to have a discussion, maybe in a workshop or something, about potentially having a hearing officer panel reconvene for Sedgwick County. I think that this would actually, in my opinion, would be well received by our taxpayers. Having maybe a slightly more organized opportunity for them to appeal their tax appraisals, I think that would be a good thing for us to consider. It's still technically on the books. We have to make a decision whether or not we would ever want to do that or not. I think it worked well in the past. I would probably be in favor of convening a hearing officer panel for Sedgwick County, but I think we ought to have a discussion so we know what we're talking about there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on other? Being none, I think that's the end. So we will stand adjourned at 1:26 p.m.